Hi, I'm Tony Bunt. I'm the owner of Ashland Bike Company. I wanted to take a moment to introduce the video that I am about to share with you guys. This was a phenomenal community night that we hosted just recently regarding the Mohican Mountain Bike 100 mountain bike race. And at the last minute we had Ryan Odell come, who is the race director for not only the Mohican 100 but also for the new the National Ultra Endurance Mountain Bike Series and the OMBC race series here in Ohio. We had Steve Twining, who's won the Mohican 100K multiple times, has the course record, at one point had the course record at Mohican. We had Drew Purcell here, who not only won the Mohican 100 but also has won a bunch of other mountain bike races, was fortunate enough to go race his bike in La Ruta for the stage race down there 2 times, which is unbelievable. And then we had Chris Chartier, who is a really cool average Joe type of rider, but has completed the Mohican 100-mile race 5 consecutive times, along with doing all kinds of other fun and crazy stuff on a bike. So this panel of experts is probably for most people going to be enough of a expert to answer any questions that anyone would ever have about the Mohican 100 mountain bike race. And I hope you really enjoy the video. Please excuse my lack of professional videography. I am not claiming to do a great job with this video, but the content is so good I definitely wanted to share it with you guys. So feel free to make comments or ask questions. We have a lot of knowledge here at the shop, not only from this night but also from our own experiences here with riding Mohican and other trails that are nearby. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact the shop here in Ashland. Without further ado, I'm going to just put this straight into the community night question and answers that we had. And again, feel free to criticize my videography because I know it's not great. So enjoy the ride. Okay guys, so thanks for coming. This is our first community night that we've done something like this. We have probably one of the best panels of experts you could have for the Mohican 100. Just some really good experience. Race director Ryan Odell, Steve Twining, Drew Purcell, and Chris Chartier. Did I say that right?
You nailed it.
All right.
Yeah.
So last year was my first year doing the 100, so I did the 100-miler. Got this thing. It took me 10 hours and 42 minutes, and I this year signed up for the 100K. I got the big one out of the way. Yeah. So, you know, the Mohican area is near and dear to my heart. It's where I started mountain biking, and I fell in love with the sport, and eventually it led to Ashland Bike Company. So, obviously it's a big part of our history here at the shop, and we wanted to just give opportunity for you all to really hear from people who know, more about this race than really anybody else. Obviously Ryan organizes the race and lots of other races. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
Organized chaos? No, it's it started out, we used to, I don't know if anybody remembers, there's some trails out at Mohican Wilderness. There was a 3-mile loop there when I moved to this area, and over the course of 20 years we just kept adding and adding and adding things, and what that trail got extended to 10 miles, and then we had the 24 hours of Mohican. And then we started with Vulture's Knob in Worcester and a place called Velo Z in Zanesville. Started the Mid-Ohio Mountain Bike Championship Series, and that was like 1998, 1999. And then that led into the Ohio Mountain Bike Championship Series. And at the same time, we were trying to get new trail at Mohican Wilderness. And so 5 years, State Forest, yes. And so 5 years later, now we've got a real loop, the biggest loop in Ohio, and we decided to start tying that together. We tied some of those places together with some private properties. Ultra racing was just getting started back then. You had the Wilderness 101 in Pennsylvania, Shenandoah. You had Leadville, but it's not really a single track race like Shenandoah. And so we tied that together with Lumberjack, and that was kind of the start of the national series. And Mohican was around for, I think, 1 year or 2 years before the national series even started. It's been, what, 15 years now?
So it's 02, 03?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's 2003 because the national series started in 2005. Okay. So the national series started just as a way to, like, let's pull these races together and make it fun, because everybody, a lot of people were going to all of them. Let's see what we can do, you know, go beyond that, and then it just exploded, and now there's races everywhere. But Mohican's still one of the bigger ones.
Yeah. And that ties in like exactly when I started mountain biking, is when that all kind of kicked off. So, you know, as a young rider and kind of looking out at the sport and then seeing that event, and it was always like up there. So I've been thinking about this race for a long time before we actually was able to do it last year. So pretty excited about that. Thanks, Ron. Steve is two-time OMBC champion, two-time Mohican mountain bike 100K winner, held the course record, if I'm not mistaken. How long?
Ryan says that after every race, for every race. I don't know.
I think you still hold the course
No,
record.
no.
Okay.
Drew.
Two-time cyclocross state champ, three-time 331 Ohio Power Series champion, placed top 15 in the Iceman pro class, has 50 wins in expert cat 1, 2, 3 XC and cyclocross, and side note, survived racing 26-inch aluminum hardtails with 55 psi in the tires with V brakes.
That was how we all started back then, for sure.
And with a family and a job.
Yes.
So
yes.
that's a big thing. That's a big thing.
No slouch there for sure. I remember riding Mohican Wilderness on my first mountain bike, which was 26-inch hardtail with V brakes. And I got it on eBay for like $200. I still have scars on my body from that experience.
My bike was from eBay also.
Yeah.
It didn't even come with a back wheel. It came with a front wheel.
Nice.
I had a Schwinn 10-speed.
Yeah.
That was it. It was, they made them all out of steel then, because that was tougher.
Yes.
Weighed about 50 pounds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rotate the handlebars when you bend.
Push the bike up the hill, and then ride downhill, and then go to the bike shop and get your wheels screwed every time. Pretty much.
This is Drew Purcell. Drew is another two-time Mohican 100K winner. Has won the OMBC Championship Series one time. Been to La Ruta a couple times to race in that stage race down there. Was second overall in the National Ultra Endurance Series. And if I'm not mistaken, has won Wednesday Worlds one time here in the shop. Was that on your cyclocross bike, or was that on the top?
No, that was when I got a real road bike.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Is everybody familiar with La Ruta? Because when we just throw that out there, that's a big accomplishment. That just finishing that race, it's a 3-day stage race across Costa Rica, and it's hard.
Yeah, worst like mountain biking conditions you can go through too.
At
it's always muddy, right?
First day is jungle and mud. Second day is mountains, high altitude, and a lot of climbing. Amazing amount of climbing. And then the third day is it's kind of all out. But
yeah, relatively easy, I guess, compared to the rest.
if you survive the first 2 days.
Yeah.
All right, and then this gentleman here to my left, Chris Chartier. Chris is a guy who I totally relate to because
I'm the slow one.
yeah. Well, Chris and I have a similar mindset when it comes to doing like events like Mohican, which is like let's like kind of train for it and then see what happens. But Chris is definitely has a pedigree here. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the little 500 race in Indiana that was in Breaking Away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Reigning,
It's
former
on a
champ.
cinder track, correct?
Yeah.
Really?
Is it still on a cinder track today?
2005 champion right here.
That's awesome.
Competed at Indiana University.
Yeah.
You
You
said
beat the
IU,
Cutters.
so.
Oh, I beat the Cutters. Yeah.
So he was
We can do it later.
on the Indiana University road and track team. Got a silver medal in the Italian pursuit and a bronze medal in the team pursuit. He's finished the Mohican 100 5 times in a row.
The
Going back.
mile, yeah.
Yeah, 100 mile, not the 100K.
The adult race, not the
Yeah.
kids.
So,
That's
right.
what was your fastest time in the 100 miles?
Like a 9:05 or something.
What's your slowest?
Like a 10:05.
So like super consistent.
Consistent. Yeah.
So interesting. When I did it last year, my riding time was the same as his finishing time, but I spent 45 minutes in aid stations. So, yeah. Strava
This
is
is
awesome.
also won the Wednesday Worlds once.
Yeah. So, this past summer, he with Jake over here rode 192 miles from Cincinnati to Ashland in one day
On a tandem.
on a tandem.
Oh my gosh. Trade places or stay?
No,
We just
no,
kept
he
it
was
locked
still-
in.
He was stoking.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is a good
And
draft,
I've seen
wasn't it?
his bibs, and they're pretty see through by now.
And we're still friends.
And then Chris is our reigning Wednesday Worlds champ, so
I almost wore the jersey.
yeah,
tonight.
I'm pretty proud of that. Wednesday Worlds is our Wednesday night group ride, and it's just a fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we do 20-mile loop every Wednesday, and there's 3 sprints, and whoever has the most points at the end of the night gets to wear the jersey, the coveted jersey. So anyway, let's get to the questions because that's why you guys are here, and snacks and drinks and hanging out with cool people. So what I'm interested in to start with, and try not to let this part take too long, is just like maybe share with us a little bit about how you got into mountain bike racing, so that everybody knows a little bit of your background with that. So,
Can we
Chris,
just start?
Go ahead,
I'll
Chris.
get this started. I got a job here in Ashland and decided, I'm moving to Ashland. I guess I have to do the Mohican 100 because I knew it was in the area. It's a famous race. So honestly, I was moving here, bought a mountain bike that March, and have never looked back. So I kind of went into it blind, and the race is amazing. And so now I'm addicted to mountain bikes. Also, probably I wanted a little more like adventure in my cycling. I was quitting like doing the road scene, racing road races and crits, and it seemed like a fun way to keep riding a bike. So the Mohican 100 got me started in mountain biking, I guess is the quick answer.
Wow,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Which is kind of my second question too, so you guys can answer this along with the first one, but also what attracted you to the Mohican 100? How'd you get into mountain biking, and then how'd you get into the 100?
I live in Loudonville, so it's right there. The Mohican 100 was the first race I ever did.
Really?
I didn't know that.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
Yep, the 100K. That was the first one I tried. And I was just hooked, I did it, and I was doing it ever since.
It's like drugs. It's like,
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
We wouldn't know.
yeah, I don't know anything about that. Cycling is my drug.
It keeps you sane.
Yeah.
It does.
I played round ball sports in school and was just looking for a competitive outlet as I graduated college and thought biking sounds really cool. I went to high school with a gentleman that you know very well,
Yeah.
Dave Vesper, that was into biking and racing at Walters Knob at the time, and he got us out there for a day of messing around on bikes. I'm like, I got to do this.
Yeah.
that led right into racing, met other friends through racing. A gentleman by the name of Ross Clark told me about the Mohican 100. I'd raced a couple cross-country races before that and thought that's what I was signing up for. And it wasn't what I was signing up for. And it was just 100K, thank goodness, but I asked Ross like 3 hours in, how much more do we got to go? He said, we're about halfway. And that just became a obsession then to do better and better at that race. And that's how I got it.
It becomes an obsession.
It does.
Yeah.
It really does. I think there's something for being local to it too. That's
Yeah.
fascinating here. You moved to the area and were drawn. That's where you had to go.
Yeah.
Being raised here was like, well, this is the pinnacle. That's where I want to do really well at, for sure.
Something about just getting to ride your mountain bike all day too, on like trails that are nearby.
5 hours, the fun bunk's getting pretty full. I don't know about.
But that's really how it started, though. The whole
Yeah.
was not going around in circles.
Yeah.
A course that, because it'd be real easy to just do a lap race
Yeah.
at Mohican, but that's not what we wanted. We wanted it to be like a day-long adventure on your bike.
Yeah.
So
It was that in the very beginning. He needs to tell a couple war stories here at the beginning of this. First year, second year, people stole signs during the race.
oh, they do
This-
every year.
I know, but
Was there, 2003.
but not that many people attended like today.
No.
There were times at the very beginning when Ross and I were doing the 100K, would be lucky enough to ride with maybe the top 5 of the 100.
Was there even
miles.
100K at the beginning?
Not the first couple years. I didn't come in at the beginning.
Because 03 and
I came
04,
in-
it was,
Yeah.
I remember
As the 100K
65
started.
guys at the Mohican Lodge, and you handed us a slip of paper, said, here's your cue sheet.
Yeah.
Put signs on most of the turns.
30 guys that got lost.
Yeah, I remember, because we were
We all
out
came
there,
riding back in a group and we
and
drank
it was
some
like a
beer.
bunch of kids
That
like
was it.
changed signs, and it was like, all right, I'm like looking at the growler, like, oh, you got growlers. You used to give out pint glasses. I'm like, upgrade, sweet.
The first year, maybe even the second year I did the 100K, when we split from the 100 milers, the volunteers at the aid stations weren't nearly as down as they are now. Ross and I were actually beating people that were supposed to be at the aid station. The volunteers weren't even there yet. There wasn't water. There wasn't
Oh,
anything.
we
It
had
was-
issues in the
it-
early
at the
years,
beginning.
for sure.
It was when your adventure made me
All
think of
kinds of
that. It was
issues.
quite the adventure, and that just drew us back even more too. With the
Yeah.
this is crazy.
So, I mean, when I talk about the adventure of it, like, last year being my first year doing it, I was at mile 80 and like I wanted to quit, but like I didn't know where I was at. So like
I just gotta-
If you were going in circles, you would have quit.
Yeah.
That was the idea, and it was having a long course to
Yeah.
where it's like, I gotta just keep going, I gotta get back, and there's
Yeah.
nobody's gonna pick you up.
Yeah, I mean, you're out there, there's no cell service.
You're on your own.
That's all you look forward to is getting home.
100%. Even in the 100K, that's all I look forward to is getting done.
Yeah.
Just be done.
It was the first time in a long time for me, that first race, where I wondered if I could finish. And so that was part of the draw too.
Right.
I've been in other bike races, I know I'm gonna finish, but how well am I gonna do? And I remember thinking like,
Yeah.
I really might not even pull this off.
Absolutely.
Not everybody
that-
finishes.
That was the cool part, yeah.
It's not guaranteed even if you are in shape because there's so many other things that can influence that for sure.
Last year was 140 out of 189 starters that finished, 142, I think.
Oh, that's a pretty good rate.
Which is a good rate. Some races are worse than that. I've
Yeah.
participated in races where the finish rate was 30%.
Do you still allow finishing after night with night lights after,
As long as you have your lights
at
in.
the last aid station?
Yes.
Okay.
But the only reason, it used to, early on, you could take as long as you wanted.
Yeah,
There wasn't-
you didn't have a
wasn't a
cutoff. It
time
was just as
cutoff.
long as you had lights at the last aid station by 7:30, you were allowed to finish regardless.
And it was no problem with racers. It was the racer families that were just,
I bet.
they followed me around. They got angry with me and said I had to send a search party. I said, it's just dark. There's nothing out there. There's no, it's not like Colorado, there's no leopards or lions or anything out there. But I just couldn't take it anymore. So that's how that rule came in. It was just,
Okay.
that's all it was.
It's funny the evolution of the race. I mean, for sure. Like, I mean, it was dialed in last year, so.
Oh, he's got it dialed now.
for a long
He has
time,
it
yeah.
dialed in. I'm sure there's a lot of effort
First
to
year
dial
it
it.
spanned 4 counties.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Had a
remember
lot
seeing
more
it,
road in it.
entering Coshocton County. I remember that sign very vividly.
How about the sign? Do you remember the sign that said, what does it say, keep no trespassing. We'll shoot you if you're still alive. We'll shoot you again. And right on a sign.
I don't know
You
if
had
I-
to go
yeah.
past that on Rock Quarry Road.
Okay, yeah.
They're still moving. We'll shoot you again.
Yeah.
It's a little intimidating.
How would you say this race compares with other endurance races, like in the series or other races that you've done?
I mean, it has its own, it's just very different. You know, they're all different, I guess.
Mhm.
The climbing here is a lot different than a lot of places. It's a lot steeper.
The pitch.
It
I
is.
say that's a comment you probably hear a lot.
11,000 feet of vertical, but you're going to get it 350 feet at a time.
Right.
Our,
And
our
over-
elevation
and
chart looks
over
like an
10%.
EKG.
Mhm.
Over
Yeah.
10% grade most of the time,
Yeah.
sometimes.
Never had somebody from Colorado win the race. We've had the best.
Yes, you have.
Who?
Tostados came in a couple
He
times.
didn't win.
No. I agree with you. That's
Right.
what I'm saying. The
He was-
people that are climbers from
He-
altitude don't necessarily do well. with
No,
this.
he won Breckenridge 5 times. He lives at 11,000 feet or 10,000 feet, and he could podium. He's never been able to win this race.
Well, Jeremiah Bishop in the video referenced if Leadville's a 4 out of 10 to finish, he calls Mohican an 8. So
He would know.
that's
He's
a pretty
not
good.
endurance
Yeah,
racer.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would compare it also, I've done the marathon, Mohican Marathon, and a 50K down there, and the mountain biking on that terrain is just way rowdier and tougher. I'd almost rather run sometimes.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
And some do.
Yeah. So even outside of cycling, for me, it ranks really high in terms of endurance events and challenges. I think because of the ruggedness of the trail and the steepness of the climbing, it's particularly difficult.
Yeah. So, in terms of preparation for this event, obviously climbing is important, but like, how do you prepare for doing the 100K or the 100 mile? And what's training look like for you, or what would you suggest for someone that's getting into it for their
Well, you guys
Sure.
can talk about trying to win, right?
For me, the trying to win took a long time. That was years in the process, and got close a couple times and frustratingly missed a turn
Oh,
here or
yeah.
there, and
Yeah. I'll never forget that one.
wanted to quit after I missed the corner and told Ryan
Still
I'm
could have won.
DNF me.
So far ahead,
I'm-
still could
I'm
have won,
done.
but it was, yeah, there's a
Went
frustration.
back out, fixed my mistake, came back in and got 5th, I think, that day. But anyway, the
Yeah.
training to get there it ended up for me working on my speed training of all things. But I didn't start this like Drew did, where Mohican 100K is his first event. I was focusing on cross-country racing. And when I really started to focus on cross-country racing, how I was going to get better at that, and it was just the bursts of power, that eventually led into the Mohican 100K, where I started to be able to race it almost like a cross-country race.
Mhm.
There's moments that you have to back it down, but to win that 100K now, today, you're pretty much riding a cross-country race. It's just a 4.5 hour race now.
Yeah.
It's just time
Mhm.
on the bike. And for me,
Yeah.
it was always on power.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing for me was the power meter and just structure. You know, if you're spending 2 minutes on a bike, it's just, it's all structure. You have to make it all count. Right, like, I don't know, 10 to 15 hours a week.
Sell your car.
You
Well,
just
live on your bike for
you
5
do.
years.
You just get in that zone of like, the wasted time on your bike.
Yeah.
Well, I've never owned a power meter.
Never-
I don't either.
See,
When
that's
I was
I
talking,
know.
I was just talking riding power.
And
I
15
don't
hours
know.
would probably be like my biggest week of the year.
Yeah.
Same.
Same.
So if you just want to get around the course, so that's why I said you guys can talk about.
Yeah,
trying
I'd
to
never
But
get
you
wanted
get
around
to
100
race either,
miles.
so.
We're talking.
Oh
you're
yeah,
talking
the K and
double.
mile are a little different.
Yes. Very
But
much so.
in terms of my training, if I can get down there and do the double, do the loop twice
that
with a
was-
good few weeks out,
Yeah.
and I can handle that and recover from that. Yeah, it's half the distance, so it feels like you haven't even touched getting prepared. But really doing the state park loop twice, I feel like I can do the 100 mile if I can get around that thing and still be moving. So anyone planning for the 100 mile, that would be my big tip, is try to put in one of those kind of days where you are really disgusted by the thought of any more
Yeah.
single track by the end of it. Because if you have a cycling base and you go out there on the day of the 100-mile, the single track's what's tough. You can roll along on a gravel road all day, just get some pickles and chips at the aid station and keep
Yeah,
riding.
what's the percentage of single track to gravel out there?
About 60-40.
Single track,
60
60 to
singles
100 mile.
Yeah.
for the 100-mile, yeah.
Have you done like the Black Fork gravel grinder roads?
Yeah, I did it last year. so.
Okay. Yeah, so like if you know the state park loop is a big portion of course, then there's
Yeah.
the rowdy trails in the wilderness. There's a
Yep.
few random, really crappy private trails. Well, they're
They're
great,
getting-
but they're
They're getting better.
and then there's a bunch of like road and hard gravel road climbs.
Yeah.
Really, like if you know the 100K course, to do the mile, you just add in a bunch of this road stuff that's difficult. But
Yeah, you kind of switch from gravel to getting back into some single track to gravel and freeze your mind a little bit. But you get your biggest dose when you're fresh, and so sometimes that can be the downfall of someone because it's so much fun and you're so fresh and you go out hard and you get to aid station 1 and you go, oh my God, I still got 75 miles
Yeah,
to go. More than that.
yeah, the
80
bulk
miles.
of the difficulties are in the first 50 miles, which is also in the 100K. And so I remember being very demoralized at the halfway aid station. Like, halfway. So I think you're right. You're the state park loop, especially if you know it, you can like really punch it and just like style out on people
I think
who
that
don't
was
know the
critical
trails.
for winning. For me personally, was that started the race.
yeah.
It was the home trail. It's just the normal loop of Mohican. I knew the corners, knew what gear to be in, everything. Get out front, ride my own pace, and just it set the tone for the whole day.
But you got like 7 or 8 hours left.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's a lot-
you might back it off.
Yeah, it's
He
a
knows
lo-
endurance extremely well.
Yeah, it's a long day, but yeah, and that's just even like with just, I mean, now it's a mass start, so I mean, you're in with hundreds of people now at that start as opposed to, 50 random dudes.
It was critical to be on the front
So, yeah,
before
you-
the race started.
Yeah,
Even
to
that-
have your space, otherwise you're following butts and you're,
Yeah, I think that effort at the beginning pays off.
Absolutely.
If you can ride trail.
For a
If you're-
local
if you're
guy,
able to, yeah.
I always felt like it did.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'll put one caveat on that. I always think the effort on the road pays off because you get in line in a good spot. And then
Yeah.
if you know the trails, you can like really back off on the climbs.
Yeah, that
and
was
then
kinda
catch
like-
everyone on the descents.
I mean, yeah, it's obviously, it's been a lot of years since I've done the 100, so my thought was get to the mountain bike trail and just be like, I'm gonna chill out for 23 miles and just follow a button, not worry about it. And then when I get to the gravel roads, if I feel like it, now I can, cause I'm looking to finish, I'm not
Just
competing.
different, right.
So the mindset's a whole
Right.
new
That's a
ball
good
game
strategy.
of just chill out on the trail and don't spend the matches trying to pass two guys just to get 10 feet in front when
But
it
you will
really
get-
doesn't
you will
matter.
get
The
frustrated.
caveat, that's it. The caveat
Yeah.
to that is
And that's-
people don't know that trail, and you do.
Yeah, and that's where it's like I'm trying to,
Been,
Yeah.
it's like yelling at somebody like, let it go, get
Yeah.
off the brakes, like use that momentum, you want it.
I don't remember the year, but you split start us only once, or was it a couple years you split start
One
us?
time,
And that-
due to complaints that, it was such a big start, so many people, but we can't shut the whole town down, so it was only a half hour
I
between
think you're right.
starts,
I
and
think
it was
you're
a
right.
mess.
Yeah.
Because these guys
We
had
had
to
caught
pass.
people by the time we got to
Oh,
State
easy,
Forest. We
in
were
30
already-
minutes you'd catch people,
we were
you
already
guys
catching
would catch people fast, yeah.
I broke my chain at the start of the State Forest and didn't have the right tools with me, and it took, it felt like 150 people before somebody
Yeah, said, hey, what do
had
you
the
need?
right tool, and I got it fixed. And at that point, I'm at the back of the 100K.
Yeah.
And I ended up
You
not
might as
finishing
well
that day,
just-
but I rode back through, it felt like 200 people, and
Yeah.
that's probably one of the best experiences I've had in that race. It was so unique. I was passing groups, literally 6, 8 people at a time in Mohican.
Yeah.
I was
You-
off
you-
the
you're
trail.
making your own
and
trail
I was
for
being
23
swore
miles at that
I
point.
was, what's wrong with you? It was quite the.
But you might want to put in the effort on the road so you aren't behind
Too many people.
who
That's
don't-
how I
Yeah.
always felt about
Yeah.
You
that.
gotta find your spot.
Yeah,
So you
play
enter
that.
into that single track with some guys or girls that are gonna be riding about your pace, and
Yeah.
then it'll be a benefit.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I was 10 hours of bike riding, and my max heart rate for the whole day was on the first couple pitches of the road going out of Loudonville.
That's, yeah.
I mean, you
Your
have to
adrenaline
kind
is
of,
up.
well, you just,
Yeah.
you have to go.
Your heart rate's
Yeah.
at probably 130 before you take off.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah,
It's like Curtis.
yeah.
Yeah, mountain bike racing is a
You're
little
just, you know,
less.
you
Yeah.
get excited.
And then somebody
whatever.
dangles a
Yeah.
carrot in front of you for
Yeah.
$200 and
Yeah,
there's a ton of
that's
money
like-
Well,
like
over that
biggest, like-
first little pitch.
The
Right.
$200
Start.
carrot is gone.
Thank goodness.
We're gonna do the, there's always one person, at least one person that gets squirrely and takes somebody out. So, last
You
year,
have had that?
every year we've sent somebody to the hospital at the start of the race.
So you don't chill.
So last year they were replacing the bridge on Main Street. So we had to funnel, all these racers into one lane. So we did a controlled slow start until we got partway up the hill. And it went so well and people liked it that I think we're gonna keep that.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
so you can let your heart rate go down, just chill for a little bit, and then when the car pulls away, once everybody's on the hill, nobody's gonna go blasting into your handlebars and send you to the hospital.
So you're just slowly speeding away as you
Yeah.
go.
As you go up the
Yeah.
hill.
We roll out
Just like last year, that's what we
Yeah,
did
the
last year.
neutral start for the first 500 yards.
So,
Neutral until like 5 guys.
neutral
sprint.
start
Yeah.
till we start getting up the hill a little bit, and then pull away, and that'll be a little bit safe, maybe a little safer start.
Awesome. So, one of my questions I had about this for me going in last year, first time doing it, was, how do you set up a bike for doing this race? Tires or suspension, or hardtail or full suspension, or what do you do with like your equipment to get you to the race and through the race? So, and I imagine it's probably different, I guess, maybe in the 100K versus 100 mile.
I would assume a little bit. For sure, the 100K needed extra preparations for extra tubes, air, fixing your chain, things that are going to go wrong, because it is likely. That was my struggle at the beginning of the 100K. It felt like every year something was going wrong with the bike because I wasn't doing my preparation properly for the bike.
Yeah.
But setup-wise, I always just stayed with my traditional cross-country, aggressive
Light,
setup.
as light as possible, and
Right.
I always put a little more efficient tire, like a lower, more of a tire.
Yes, I ran very low traction on it because I felt like I knew the single track areas as well as anybody that was going to be in that race, so I didn't have to over tire it. I wanted it to roll well when we were out on the roads.
Yeah. Yeah, I always took extra stuff, for sure.
Now-
Tubes and
Yeah, nowadays I'd be super curious to try tri-bars on it. Like you see more guys starting to do that in gravel events. I think that there would be room in the Mohican 100 for that with the amount of roads that there are.
For
I
the
know
mile.
Bishop has won it with them on. Now last year he didn't ride them. The year before he did.
Yeah, I'd say for the miler, there's enough flat road where if it's not a full-on bar, you want like a little extra bar tape on the
To be able to
exposed part of the
lean.
bar,
Yep.
so you
Yeah.
just lay out on your forms,
That's
because there is
interesting.
some like time trialing sections, you can usually find wheels.
There's
but-
that
The rail trail.
the rail trail. Thank
It's
you. I
paved
think
now. It used to be gravel, and it used to be a little bit rougher, and now it's paved.
You
so
guys
it's just
experienced
fast.
that in race. Does that feel like it never stops when you're on it?
So, go ahead, Chris.
It feels like a long time on the way up. It's actually kind of
It's
a
a
gradual,
false flat.
It's this
Yeah.
long climb. You think it's flat, so you're like, I've never felt worse. Why do I suck so bad? But like,
That was the intention. That's why it was entered in.
but like, just keep in the back of your mind when you're out there on that, like, I'm miserable. This doesn't make any sense. Are my brakes rubbing? It's actually you're getting hundreds of feet of elevation slowly, and then you really feel like you're bombing. So you're gonna look for like a tandem or a big dude to get behind on the section.
Yeah, raise your
down.
hand.
Like I was under geared with my one by even on the downhill section of that. So that part's kind of nice, and that's a good thought. Like, don't get demoralized when you're up on that. But you could have little padding or like mini tri-bars would be good. I heard you guys debating beforehand. For the 100K, you're going double squish, your regular cross-country setup. But for the 100 mile, you were talking about the hardtail.
Yeah,
In the
just
back
because of the
garage.
amount of roads, that the hardtail would interest me.
I like ergon grips and the little nubs, just to be able to move
Yeah.
my hands around.
So I've done the 100 mile on, I did a hardtail for the first 4 years because there's a lot of road. I went with a Scott, what's nicer, a Scale or a Spark? A Scott Spark, I can never remember, it was a hand-me-down. With like a pretty good lockout, So I was a dual suspension for the 100 mile. My back felt so much better. Like, I'm sure you're fat. If you're really racing to win the thing, the 100 miles is probably a hardtail event, but I felt like I benefited from extra suspension. What did you ride?
So last year I rode a Scott Spark, and this year I'm riding an Epic. And I would say for my setup, like I always just focused on getting through the race. So I have, you know, tires with a little bit of reinforcement in the sidewall because I don't want to.
That'd be smart.
I don't want to shred my tires, and I you know, for me, like it's going to be a slog no matter what. So making the bike as efficient as possible with also keeping in mind durability for me was key. But then again, like I think when you're going at a level where you're competing to win, it's a different story. But getting through the event, I think durability is a good thing.
And I think because of that, you mentioned like bringing something to fix your chain, bringing the extra tools that you might not otherwise bring in a race where you're trying to go fast. Because let's say you want to do 10 hours in the 100 mile and you spend an hour screwing around with your chain and do an 11-hour race, that's still a success.
Or miss a cutoff,
You
get pulled.
But
yeah,
you're
but
saying
if you
still-
can spend an hour and fix the thing and get the
You're
race
still
done, you're going to
successful.
feel like you pulled it off because you did. So I'd say I bring a little extra stuff that if it was real race mode, I would leave behind.
And I would say practice like actually using the tools first.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Because
Know how
if
to
the first
use
time
it.
you're ever fixing a flat tire with your kit is like in the woods while you're dripping sweat off your face and you're
Sitting in a patch of poison ivy.
yeah, absolutely.
Cramping.
Usually panicking.
Cramping up because you know you need pickle juice. Which, on a side note, like I hate pickles, but I drank more pickle juice
It
last
works.
year.
The salt works. I used to carry a
I
lot
actually-
of salt water
I
with
think
me.
I pickled the inside of my mouth because I went to eat afterwards and it hurt to like eat because my mouth was so like raw.
We had pickle juice at the aid stations last year, didn't
Salt
we?
Yeah,
tabs are real.
Okay.
I
They
drank.
Yeah.
wait,
Salt-
a lot.
Salt tabs.
Salt tabs are real
They're
and they
good.
do work
Salt tabs.
every hour.
It puts
multiples.
in your brain. It makes it think.
Oh man, it's
You're good to go.
freaking.
Side note,
If you do break down though, the aid stations, there's typically mechanical support crew at all the aid stations, and we send extra stuff out just
Yeah.
like to try to help as many people finish as possible. It's, you know, it sucks to get 70 miles and then go, oh, you know, I had one tube and it didn't make it, and so I'm not going to finish the race. So we'll have some of those extra things there. Not enough for 700 people, but enough so that we can get you through. If you can just make it to the aid station. It's always a good idea to plan the race that way too. Think of
I was
it from
gonna say
getting
that,
aid
too.
station to
Yeah.
aid station rather
You can always
than
put stuff.
I'm
in.
going
Yeah,
100
put stuff out ahead
miles.
for yourself, assuming
Yeah.
maybe I
Yeah.
burned a tube or two, so
Right.
I've got a tube out. I know when I get to the state station, I gotta put in my pocket to keep
yeah, absolutely.
supplies going.
So bike aside, like what other? I mean, how many did you guys use hydration packs, or you go bottles, or how do you hydrate for the race?
I try to do bottle an hour for sure on water,
Okay.
and then extra food as much as you can eat.
You have someone crewing for you then.
That, yes,
No?
somewhat.
Just
I
depends. Like, yeah. I mean, you can
I
put
forget
it
that your
in
race
days.
is half as long as mine, as fast as
I
you.
mean,
Right,
it is,
so
right,
we
like-
didn't wanna, you don't wanna dawdle in the 100K, you can't
Yeah.
really stop at aid station very long. The first one, I always wanted somebody standing there to give me 2 bottles, cause I knew that, like you're saying, the beginning of that race is fairly tough, so I didn't wanna carry a lot of extra weight, so I pick up 2 there, and then his second aid station, actually, you can't have a crew at. So that I relied on them for, but then the next one you can have a crew at, and the final one, it's like, well, I'm back at Mohican now, so
Yeah, you're just
I don't
like-
need anything, I can, it's
You can have
probably
it home.
8 more miles, just go.
I think this question kind of fits here. How do you know like where the aid stations are, or like how do you drop stuff off there, or like how does that stuff work?
When you show up at packet pickup, there'll be tarps down that'll say aid, with the aid stations labeled. You just set your, you put everything in a Ziploc bag,
Okay.
throw it in there, it goes to the aid station. As soon as the aid station closes, it's brought back to that same spot, right
So
there
you
by
can,
the.
so you can
by
get
the
your drop
finish line.
bags back if you don't use them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But on your website, there's also, it lists what mileage
Yep.
the aid stations will be at.
Yes.
So to prepare,
Cool.
if you're wanting to do the 100K first or the 100 mile, it tells you how many miles are between the aid stations and you plan your nutrition according to
So,
that.
so for hydration pack, I never
never
worn
did it.
one. I guess you'd be more likely to in the mile.
They're old school. They were old
The aid stations are frequent enough that you can fill a couple bottles or have a crew there waiting to give you a couple bottles. And we're sitting here, it's like chilly out here in early May. The race is always so hot.
Yes.
Or
Not
often,
always.
often hot.
It does warm though.
Depends.
You start off cold in the morning in Loudonville and you're like, oh, it's not gonna be bad today, and then it's hot by 10.
But like 3 p.m. baking sun on
I
Valley
bet.
Stream Road, I do not want to backpack on.
Perfect spot, that's
Yes.
what we called it. The race is often won or lost on Valley Stream Road.
Absolutely. So like that's just something to consider, that maybe on a winter or spring ride you do like the pack on. I tend to not like that stuff on me when it's
Same.
85 or whatever. And the aid stations are frequent and well stocked enough that I've never needed it, although it's nice to have all the hydration you want when you're out there.
My advice about the aid stations is don't pass them, especially if it's your first time. When I was first there the first couple of years, I thought, well, that's just gonna take too much time. Well, then you just fall clear apart from nutrition, long, getting lack of hydration.
Yeah.
You don't have to stay there long, but stop, refill up.
Yeah, you like save 2 minutes if you're first time in the 100 miler, you're gonna pay more than 2
Oh,
minutes.
yes.
Later
Yes.
on, yeah, for sure.
I had two things that I took away from last year doing it for the first time. Chamois butter in a drop bag.
Oh, yes.
Like, because even if you don't use it in a normal ride, at the hour 6, like when you're chafing everywhere, like there's nothing better than some fresh.
I squirted sunscreen down my backside the first year, so I forgot my chamois butter. So good tip.
How
Yeah.
did that work out?
It stung. So I wish I'd had chamois butter in a drop bag.
Chamois butter in a drop bag. I took a hydration pack last year and totally did not want it after a while. Like I
It
was.
got to be a nuisance.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You could. That's a good point, though. You could ride it in
Sure
the
you could.
state
To
park
an aid station.
when you don't want to reach down for the bottle. Maybe when it's cooler in the morning, and then ditch it with somebody at
Yeah.
8-1.
Yeah, there's definitely options for that. Okay.
Can I comment more on random equipment?
Yeah,
Am
random
I gonna
equipment.
derail? So my first year at like mile 10, I got into a wreck. My shoe buckle all got ripped off the left side, and I lost my sunglasses. Again, like if your goal is to finish, you want to finish the thing, even if that kind of stuff happens. So
Duct
like
tape.
random stuff, duct tape. I duct taped my shoes back together, and I told my wife after 8-1, I said, go to the gas station and buy some crappy sunglasses. So like extra sunglasses, an extra kit, duct tape. Seriously, the stuff that's just gonna like keep you pasted together and finish the race.
Or even pasted just to get to an aid station where
Right.
someone can actually fix your bike for you so you
Yeah.
can keep going.
Exactly. So like if you've got somebody crewing for you, just all that kind of random stuff is worth having because it'll help you finish the race.
Couple wraps of duct tape somewhere on your frame or like on a fork station or something like that.
I wrapped duct tape on the tire levers for my,
Yeah.
just standard.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
don't leave
just
home
like
without it.
having.
Two
having
zip
that kind of
ties go a
place.
long way too. I've zip tied it.
Too much weight.
Zip ties. Zip ties and duct tape.
I've zip tied a derailleur on to get me home before.
Yeah,
Like,
we're doing different events.
pick a gear and go.
100%. 100%
And
different
then the
than
other
that.
thing that's a real ace tip that I picked up off my brother-in-law, which I didn't do for years and years, pantyhose with ice, and then you can tie it or tuck it right inside your bibs, and so then for an hour you've got
Slow, cool.
ice water dripping on your back. And so again, if you're racing to win and it's earlier in the day, you don't want to pack ice on your back, it's heavy, but 2 p.m., 90 degrees, baking sun. And then at the end, you just stuff it in your pocket. It's not that heavy once the ice is melted. So that kept my core temperature down pretty well. So I enjoyed that.
That's good. Good
Yeah.
tip. All right. So I know that there's a couple people in this room who are attempting this race for their first time. So we've already given some pretty good tips for first timers, but do you have any other advice or things that you could tell them going into it, doing the 100K for their first time?
Smile. Just have fun while you're out
Enjoy
there.
it.
Yeah.
Go at your own pace.
Yeah.
Try not to get too caught up in passing everybody, because you don't know where you're at yet. You don't know how much time that guy's put in versus anybody else.
We're sitting at the beginning of May here. Who are the two that are gonna try? Okay. His advice about His advice about the 2 laps at Mohican for me is spot on advice. Here, if you're not racing this weekend or if you have a chance to go down there, try to do 2, but try to do 2 at a very similar pace to see how you are at pacing yourself. You'll have time to recover before the race comes from that effort, and also a check of, oh, I'm in trouble, or this was better than I thought it was going to be.
That's a good point.
Maybe your lap right now at Mohican is a 2:30 or 2:45. Say it's 2:30. Go out and try to ride 2 2:45s back to back, just to see if you can, or maybe only lose a couple minutes on the second lap. That, when you said that earlier, I wanted to expand on it, because that's the first year I won it. I went out and did 2 sub-2s and thought, oh, okay, I might actually be able to do this year. So it just focused me into
Back to back?
Yeah.
Nice.
And that's it, folks. We're done.
There's many people that can do that.
I've never done 2 laps ever there.
Really? No. I just heard Pendlebury did 2 150s.
It just sounds like a terrible idea.
So the pacing point is a really good one related to the doing the double. First of all, it's amazing how bad like the last half lap feels. You can like hold together
Absolutely.
for a while. Honestly, if it's one of your first races or you're not an experienced racer, you're probably gonna go faster than you planned on, or faster than you really need
Because that's
to.
the way the course is designed. It's you're going to hit all that nice single track in the beginning. You're going to go your normal pace and burn out by the time you hit a 2 or 3.
So if you have some experience with that and kind of know your pace, I also run like a landmark timing sheet under some clear packing tape on my top tube. And the mountain bike loop has great mile markers. And so you can give yourself pretty detailed numbers, like that first road dead end, I want to be at 8 minutes. In going into the state park loop, I want to be at 28. And then particularly on the single track, you might have a number in your head, 7 minutes per mile, or have some markings for that on your top tube. That can be really fun because, like I said, you're probably going to go too fast. It's a really nice feeling to knock out a mile on the state park loop and realize it was a minute too fast and that you can back it up. And like, oh, I'm fine, I can go a little easier. So that would be a suggestion I
I think
have.
setting your speed
That's really
limits
good
too
advice.
is really important at the beginning, especially for finishing. With a heart rate monitor or a power meter or whatever kind of tool you can use to measure your effort. But setting that and saying, okay, I'm not going to let my heart rate be above whatever it is, like 160 for any length of time as much as possible. So if I'm climbing, I'm going to gear down and just take it easy on the climbs and just really try to pace yourself, because by the end, granted I don't have the experience you guys have, but like by the end, you can't get your heart rate up above 160 because you're so tired. So, but like setting your limit really low early on so that you don't burn yourself out.
Another tip I've heard, and I don't know whether you guys use this or not, is because it's real easy to get going along and zone out, is to have like an alarm or something to remind you when to eat, so that you're eating consistently, because once that blood sugar drops, you're done. You're all done. So you have to eat along the way. That's been a problem with me, is just forgetting. I'm out there, I'm thinking about everything but that, and then it's like, wow, a half hour went by or an hour went by. So.
Yeah, my first year I made the mistake of thinking the aid stations would just be like an all-you-can-eat feast, and that was my nutrition plan. And like, the problem with that is, I was like, oh, they've got potato chips and sandwiches, and like, I'll be fine. I'm gonna be out there all day.
Cookies.
And I've learned, instead of doing that, to dose out the calories per hour really evenly, because I would get to these aid stations, I'd pound all this food, and then you go out riding, and I would just throwing up after every aid station. And so I've learned, so for me, I shoot for like 250 to 300 calories an hour, and the smoother the better for the 100 milers. So like if I can be sipping a drink with calories, or even having it down, like you said, to like every 10 minutes it's a shot block or something, that fights off the throw up feeling until like hour 7 or something instead of it happening at hour 4. So smooth nutrition is, I think, important.
Garth used to tell me every 15 minutes. You're doing a goo. Do a goo or a gel every 15, something every 15 minutes. So you're getting consistent fuel.
And then chase that
And
with
chase
water.
that with water.
Yeah. Yeah, if
Exactly.
you just take the gel, you're gonna feel really nasty.
Yeah.
I tried one year, just gels only. By the time I got to Wilderness, which for the 100K is probably a little bit over halfway, I was 20 goos in and I had never felt so bad. I was cramping because all the water from my body was rushing to my stomach to try to help. I was drinking water with it too, but it was just too much
It's too much.
goo.
Yeah, you gotta have some solids
Now,
too.
we've learned so much about nutrition, you don't do stuff like that anymore. It's real food, your calories in your bottle, you really don't want a lot of calories in your bottle. That's what they've learned now. If you're 80 calories maybe in a bottle, eat your calories, drink your hydration. Make sure you have electrolytes in, you're getting electrolytes too in your drink, not just plain water. But plain water is okay to have with you, just don't let it go.
Yeah,
So-
I guess, yeah, the general ultra endurance thought is,
Yeah, you're gonna know
if
way more.
it feels good, it won't last. If you feel like shit, it won't last. Just keep moving. I mean, if it's your first race, walking gets you to the finish line. Like, don't be afraid to get off your bike
He's correct.
and
Regather
walk
yourself
up that
if you
hill.
have to.
I don't
Yeah.
care if it's a gravel hill. I don't
Yeah.
care if it's a flat
Oh.
stretch of road. Get off and walk. You'll get there. Just
They-
keep moving forward. Like,
He talks about Valley Stream.
don't sit there and have a pity party about yourself. Just keep moving.
Yeah.
Like, because everybody else around you is feeling the same way.
Exactly.
Like,
I
put it
walked
just
Valley Stream.
yeah,
and
I
went
mean-
top 5 in the 100K.
walking gets you there. So
You could take
do
a
not.
nap.
Yeah, like like
There's
don't.
lazy boys at aid station 2.
Yes.
I recommend don't stay in them too long.
Yeah.
So
But
yeah, I always
just-
say start
just-
slow and then back it off.
Yeah, start slow and taper. I mean, that is it.
I did one time see a guy on Strobel Road asleep. I hope he was asleep. Just in the dirt. And that's when I knew I was in a real race. Like, we're 70 miles in, this guy's just laid out in the dirt. I didn't stop to check on him.
Didn't want to wake
You
them.
were racing.
Yeah. But
And there was another guy going up Gifton Road. We had it on video, eating a Subway sandwich.
That's
You know,
awesome.
and like I don't see how you could eat a giant Subway sandwich climbing that hill.
Where do you get it at out there?
I don't know.
Because there's not a Subway anywhere close.
That's what I mean. He
Jersey.
must have got it from like, he must have had it in his jersey or something. He was
That's
in
a hard one to walk up with a bike.
And the craziest thing in the drop bag, I gotta bring this up, is because we all had to know who this was and why, was the only thing in the drop bag at Glenmont. This is aid station, it's the farthest point out. Once you get to aid station 3 at Mohican Wilderness, there's no turning back, and you know
Oh,
that. Yeah, I mean, once you start
Once you
going out,
leave,
you're going out farther. So if you can't make it, you drop at 3. But at 4, they just had a bottle of whiskey. In his bag. And that was it, and just this much in the bottle of whiskey, not like a full bottle of whiskey. Because he says, he doesn't want anybody to steal it. To steal it. But his thinking is that if I make it to aid station 4, I'm gonna want that shot of whiskey, and that's gonna motivate me to get there. So that was his reasoning behind it. But that's
So-
the only time I've ever
So
seen
one
it.
last note about if you're going to drop at 8.3, I mentioned the rail trail's demoralizing. In the 100 mile, 8.3 is also very demoralizing because, like I said, you're like, I'm only halfway. So if you really have to drop, if it's a
You're not even
safety
halfway, you're
concern,
46 miles.
go ahead and drop. But
Yeah.
if it's just like you don't think you can pull it off at 8.3, I'd say you'd be surprised. You can get a second wind. The course, well, not right out at
It kicks
8.3.
you in the teeth as soon as you leave 3, so don't be demoralized
But
by that if you're
then,
doing
yeah,
100
you get
miles.
some
It
road
gets better.
sections.
It will get better.
So you go through moments of thinking you can't finish. Like Andrew said, you just keep moving. Even if you feel terrible halfway, you can probably pull the thing off. They've got aid stations open
Yeah.
all day. Just keep it going.
Yeah, I would say, like, be prepared for a moment where you're gonna have to make a decision about keeping going.
Yeah.
Whether you're doing the 100K.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think whether
It's
you're
happened lots
going
of
for
times.
first or last, you still feel terrible.
Agreed.
Yeah.
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 I've wanted to quit many races while I was winning. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. This hurts. This hurts a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to like think about when I feel like this, what is my decision going to be? you have to think about what motivates you to be out there. Keep going.
Always blame the race promoter for anything like that.
Steve-O had an idea. He wants me to put a board up at every one so you can write notes to the race director during the race.
That would be
stuff.
good.
And then bring all of those boards to the finish line for everybody to
That would be
see.
good.
Or like a phone you can scream in, but it's actually not recording. Just
Yeah,
like
that's even better.
I've certainly thought many bad thoughts about you during
Yeah.
races.
We'll see.
Do you guys have any other questions that we can talk about?
So talking about shooting for last place, this is my first time I've been doing anything like this. Any recommendations for how to start the race, knowing I'm not going to gun for the first?
Yeah, I would say let the folks who are aggro roll out because
Oh, yeah.
it's what 600 people
Yeah.
downtown, elbow to elbow. People crash every year, like you
Yeah.
said. But you can just let them. Like, what's 30 seconds, right, at
Yeah.
the start?
Race is
Yeah.
never, it's not won or lost on the first
Right.
time.
So I
And
would,
then it'll be a neutral
You-
rollout.
yeah.
This could be so much fun for you because there's a lot of people in that race that are there for a really good day, like
Yep.
looking forward to having a lot of fun.
Okay.
Just
ad-
make conversation with people. Seriously.
Yeah.
You're gonna
just-
get to know somebody while you're out there doing it. I mean, that could.
Yeah, and there's
There-
people
there are
out there
really
that help
cool
you. If you
people that
break
do these
down and you
events.
don't have something, there's always somebody that has what you need.
Yes, somebody will be way overly prepared, so don't hesitate to ask, hey, do you have a pump? Do you have, even if you don't know what the term is, I got a flat tire, can you help? Something. If you tell a mountain biker that it's your first time doing this, people will want to help you, I promise.
Yeah,
It's
the,
a
like
cool crowd.
among
It
the
is a
just
cool
finisher
crowd.
crowd or the whole crowd in general, like just expect high vibes. Like people will be in a good mood through 8 to 3 or something. But no, but everybody's out there to. It's
Yeah.
not like cutthroat. Once you're a little, even at the front, mountain biking's pretty chill compared to like a crit
Agreed.
race or
Agreed.
something.
The little video we watched here, there's several others. Where could he find those?
Oh yeah.
On YouTube.
There.
They're all on YouTube.
Dirtwire TV is.
Yeah, but they're all on YouTube.
But the point I was gonna make with
Just
that
type in
is,
Mohican.
almost every year that he does a kind of summary of the race, they'll interview the guy that was the last finisher. And it's usually a pretty positive vibe from the guy in the interview. And he's shattered at this point. He's just came in from a 12-hour, 13-hour, and he's still positive. There's a
Keep
great,
going, Steve. 14-hour.
Yeah.
whatever
It's
that
the best time to be
is.
2016.
but
Find
my-
that guy.
my-
I think it was 2016.
My point is to you, if that's your goal, it's still a great goal. Go finish it.
Yeah.
Absolutely, go finish it.
So what was your first finish time for the 100K? How long did it take you compared to your last?
I haven't finished it in a couple tries now, but
So the first year I did it took me 8 hours.
really, I think I
And
was.
last year I did
It was
it was
close to
4.5.
6,
Wow.
but it was with Ross. Ross was riding to win, and I was just trying to stay with Ross.
That
And
makes
then I
me
found
feel a lot
love.
better. You did an 8-hour 100K?
Yep, the first time I ever did it.
I can go faster than that. Nice.
So that's just,
I mean,
Yeah.
That was his first day on a bike.
it was almost close.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
What
Yep.
year was that?
2013.
And you instantly came right up to expert and were competing.
Yeah,
right
well, the
after
first
that.
time I did
It
sport,
came up fast.
Yes,
the
you
first
did,
time
like
I did
from
sport
nowhere.
class, the expert guys were like giving me crap.
I remember
passing
that.
them.
I remember. I was like, "Who is this guy?" Oh, it's some guy from Loudonville.
I remember hearing about him.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's
But
some
yeah, I
kid
guess
from Loudon that's really
that's a
fast.
lesson though. Even somebody who goes on to like an illustrious off-road racing,
Yeah,
I don't know if you want to call it career or whatever. Like the
Hobby.
first time out, just go nice and slow.
Right,
Get
it
up
was.
and
It
down.
was just, yeah.
Just enjoy the ride,
Yep.
Yeah.
and you'll have fun with it, and you won't go out too hard. Just make the cutoffs. Be sure to make those early cutoffs. We're maybe a little more flexible towards the end of the race on the cutoffs, but those first few cutoffs,
You go a mile or kilometer? 100 mile or 100 kilometer?
Kilometer.
Okay. So cutoffs won't be as.
cutoffs are pretty generous
You'll be-
because they're
yeah,
set
you'll be
for the
good.
100-mile.
Right. You'll be good.
I did my first race on a mountain bike up at Iceman, and it's a huge race. Lots of people racing that too. And I remember like when I found a group of guys, or there were women too, a group of riders that I was like, felt like I was kind of competing with, but also like it was my own little group. Like I thrived on that energy. So I'm sure when you're out there that day, you'll find a group of people that you'll just like legitimately enjoy riding with probably. They'll push you when you feel demoralized, but also maybe you're pushing them through parts of the race too. So I would definitely say like when you kind of do settle in, just look around and like start talking to people, enjoy yourself, like meet some people.
There's enough people out there too. If you don't like the vibe of the group you're in, just shuffle the deck.
Yeah, just switch one. Yeah, seriously. Yeah, no, exactly.
It is a
Slow
well
down,
race.
speed it
Break
up.
away on a climb
It is,
somewhere.
I don't mean that, but still, there's a lot of, you'll see grouping.
Ooh, and
People-
after after the 100K turnoff, I also realized if you're not one of the front runners, don't be demoralized by 100 milers whipping past you. Remember that
Oh,
they're
yeah.
like
That's what I've been told.
top racers coming by. So like, you know, you're on those late climbs. I could see how that would be a weird feeling if you were in the 100K. It's like, who the heck is this? It's just
Where'd this guy come from?
Yeah. It's 100 milers who are like,
That's right.
real top
After aid
racers.
station 3, the 100 miler, the front pack of the 100 milers may come blowing by like you know, like they're driving a car or something. It's crazy how fast those first, you know, 3 to 5 guys are. But that's abnormal. That is not the norm.
They're
at all.
freaks.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that ends our Q&A. So thank you guys for
Thank you
coming
guys
out
for doing
and
this.
supporting this. I mean, the goal of this event is to help people finish this event.